While my grandson was freezing outside on Thanksgiving Day, my family was eating turkey at the table. You know, I never thought I'd be telling this story, not to anyone, but here I am, 68 years old, sitting in my kitchen at 2 in the morning, and I can't sleep anymore. Haven't slept right since last Thanksgiving. My name's Walter McGrady, if we're being formal. But nobody's called me that since my wife died. That was, God, 28 years ago now. I got a voicemail from my son the day before Thanksgiving. David, my only kid, said they'd be busy, not to come by this year. Didn't sound mean, just distant, like I wasn't part of the plan anymore. I played that message 3 times, sitting in my recliner, looking at the phone like it might tell me something different if I stared hard enough. Hey Dad, it's David. Listen, we're gonna keep it small this year. Rachel's got her family coming, you understand. Maybe we can grab lunch next week or something. Next week or something? If you're listening to this, where are you right now? Kitchen table? Car? Tell me in the comments where you're at when stories like this find you, because I need to know I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. See, the thing is, I raised that boy mostly on my own. His mother, my Linda, she got cancer when David was 12, gone by the time he turned 14, and I did what you do, you keep going. You work doubles at the electrical company. You learn to cook mac and cheese 17 different ways. You sit through Little League games even when your back's screaming and you haven't slept in 2 days. I never remarried. People ask me about that sometimes. Truth is, I didn't have the time, or maybe I didn't have the heart. Either way, it was just me and David for a long time. And we were close. Real close. The kind where he'd call me from college just to talk about nothing. Where he'd bring his laundry home even after he got his own place, just so we'd have an excuse to watch the game together while the dryer ran. Then he met Rachel. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blame everything on her. David's a grown man, makes his own choices. But something changed when she came into the picture. Slow at first, like watching ice form on a pond. You don't notice until you try to step on it and realize how thick it's gotten. First, it was little things. Dad, Rachel thinks you spoil Jack too much. Jack's my grandson. He was 3 when that started. What's spoiling? I bought the kid a Happy Meal and let him stay up an extra hour to watch cartoons. Then it was bigger things. Dad, we're doing Christmas morning just us this year. You can come by in the afternoon. Then the afternoon became the evening. Then the evening became maybe stop by later in the week. But I kept my mouth shut. You know why? Because I wanted to see Jack. That boy, God, he looked just like David did at that age. Same crooked smile, same way of tilting his head when he was thinking hard about something. And he loved his grandpa, always running to the door when I showed up. Papa Walt. Papa Walt. So I swallowed whatever I needed to swallow. Smiled when Rachel made her little comments about how I was old-fashioned or too soft. Acted like it didn't bother me when David started parroting her words. The voicemail, though, that hit different. Thanksgiving's when Linda always went all out. It was her favorite holiday. She'd start cooking 3 days before, and the house would smell like heaven. After she died, I kept making her stuffing recipe every year, even when it was just me and David. Even when David moved out, I'd make a whole pan and eat it alone if I had to, because some things you don't let die. So when David said don't come, I sat there in my chair for maybe an hour. Just sat there. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching. I was thinking about all the Thanksgivings. All the times I'd carved the turkey while David told Jack to watch how Grandpa did it. All the times we'd go around the table saying what we were thankful for, and Jack would say Papa Walt and everyone would laugh. Not this year, though. But here's the thing, and maybe this makes me a fool. I couldn't let it go. The next morning, Thanksgiving morning, I woke up and just couldn't sit in that empty house. I made Linda's stuffing anyway, made a whole pan of it, wrapped it up nice in aluminum foil and thought, what's the harm in dropping it off? Just leave it on the porch if they don't want to see me. At least they'd have it. So I drove over. It's about 20 minutes from my place to David's house. The house I helped him buy actually gave him the down payment when he and Rachel got married. $20,000 I'd saved for my retirement. But what else was I going to do with it? Can't take it with you, right? The weather was brutal that day. 5 degrees, maybe less with the wind chill. The kind of cold that makes your bones hurt just walking from the house to the car. I had the heat blasting, but my hands were still shaking a little on the steering wheel. Told myself it was just the cold. When I turned onto David's street, I saw all the cars. Rachel's parents' Lexus, her sister's minivan, David's car. 2 others I didn't recognize. Full house, the kind of gathering we used to have when Linda was alive. I almost turned around right then. Almost. But I had that stuffing in the passenger seat, still warm, and I don't know what I thought. Maybe that the smell of it would remind David of something. Maybe that he'd see me and remember I was his father. I pulled up to the curb, parking a few houses down, because the driveway was full. Cut the engine. Sat there for a minute, trying to decide if I was really going to do this. That's when I saw him. Jack. My grandson was sitting on the front steps, in a t-shirt and shorts, in 5-degree weather. At first, my brain couldn't make sense of it. Like when you see something so wrong, your mind tries to fix it for you. Maybe he just ran out to get something. Maybe he was playing some kind of game, but he wasn't playing. He was sitting there, hunched over, arms wrapped around his knees. His lips were blue, actually blue, and he was shaking. Not like shivering, but those deep whole-body shakes when your system's starting to shut down from the cold. I was out of my truck before I even knew I was moving. Jack! Jesus Christ, Jack! He looked up at me, and his face, God, I'll never forget his face. It wasn't surprised. It wasn't relieved. It was just empty. Like this was normal. Like freezing on the front steps on Thanksgiving was just another Thursday. Papa Walt? His voice was so small. I'm not supposed to. I'm in trouble. Trouble? What kind of? Never mind. Come here, come on. I tried to pick him up, but he pulled back. No, Papa, I can't. Mom said I have to stay here until I learn. Learn? Learn what? Not to lie. About what? What did you lie about? He looked down at his hands. They were red and raw. I said I did my homework, but I didn't. I forgot. I stood there in that freezing wind, looking at this 7-year-old boy who was being tortured over homework, and something in me shifted, like a bone finally breaking after being bent too long. How long have you been out here? He shrugged. That kind of kid shrug that means they don't know or don't want to say. Jack, how long? Since before the cousins came. Rachel's family had been there at least an hour, judging by the cars. I looked at the house. Through the dining room window, I could see them all. The table set nice with Rachel's good china. David carving a turkey. Rachel's father laughing at something. Her sister pouring wine. Everyone warm and comfortable and having a grand old time. While my grandson froze outside, I scooped Jack up. I didn't ask permission this time. He was light, too light, and cold as a block of ice against my chest. He didn't fight me, just buried his face in my shoulder and held on. I kicked that door open. Not knocked. Not rang the bell. Kicked it. It flew back and hit the wall with a bang that made everyone jump. The conversation stopped. Every face turned to look at me standing there, holding Jack, probably looking like some wild man with my hair all windblown and my face red from rage or cold or both. Rachel recovered first. Walt, what are you? Shut up. That's not one of the 6 words I said that made their faces go white. That was just the appetizer. David stood up from the head of the table. My son, the boy I raised, standing there in his nice sweater with carving knife still in his hand, looking at me like I was the problem. Dad, you can't just... How long? I was still holding Jack, who'd gone completely still against me. How long was he out there? Rachel stood up too, her face doing that thing where she tries to look concerned, but really she's just angry about being embarrassed. He's being disciplined. It's none of your... In 5-degree weather? Are you insane? You don't understand modern parenting, Rachel said. And there it was, that tone, that dismissive superior tone she'd perfected over the years. Children need boundaries, he lied about. About homework, he told me. David finally found his voice. Dad, put him down. This isn't your house. You don't get to... And that's when I said it. 6 words that cut through all the excuses and pretense and bullshit they'd built up around themselves. I'm calling Child Protective Services now. The room went silent. Dead silent. Rachel's mother gasped. Her father stood up like he might do something, then thought better of it. David's face went from red to white in about 2 seconds. You wouldn't, Rachel said, but her voice was different now. Scared. Watch me. I pulled out my phone with my free hand, Jack still clinging to me with both arms. In fact, I think there's probably enough people here to make a real good witness list. Dad, stop. David moved toward me. You're overreacting. He was only out there for... How long, David? Go ahead. Tell me how long is acceptable to leave a 7-year-old outside in freezing weather. Give me a number. He couldn't, because there isn't one. Rachel tried another approach. Walt, please, we're family. Let's just calm down and... Family? I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. Family doesn't let babies freeze while they eat turkey. Family doesn't... God, what is wrong with you people? I looked around the room, all these well-dressed, successful people. Rachel's parents with their Lexus and their winter place in Florida, her sister with her perfect makeup, and her 3 kids sitting there in shock. David in his expensive sweater, I probably bought him last Christmas. And not one of them had said a word about Jack being outside. Not one... Did you all know? I asked the room. Did you all know he was out there? Rachel's sister looked down at her plate. That was answer enough. Jesus Christ. David tried one more time. Dad, you don't know what it's been like. Jack's been having behavioral issues. The lying, the acting out. He's 7. You don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand I raised you better than this. I understand your mother would be spinning in her grave if she could see what you've become. That hit him. I saw it land. But instead of shame, he just got angry. Don't bring Mom into this. Why not? You think she'd be proud? You think she'd sit at that table eating turkey while her grandchild froze outside? You always do this, Rachel cut in. Always making everything about Linda. She's been dead for almost 30 years, Walt. Maybe it's time to stop living in the past. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd slowly poisoned my son against me, who'd turned family into some kind of transaction, who could leave a child in the cold and call it parenting. You're right, I said. She is dead, which means she can't protect Jack. But I can, and I will. I turned to leave, still carrying Jack. David grabbed my arm. Dad, you can't just take him. Try and stop me. We stood there, father and son, staring at each other, and I saw it in his eyes. He wanted to rip Jack away from me and throw me out and go back to his perfect Thanksgiving dinner. But he also saw something in my eyes that made him let go. Maybe he saw that I meant it about CPS. Maybe he saw that I was done being pushed around. Or maybe, just maybe, somewhere deep down, he remembered being a kid himself, remembered what it felt like to have a parent who'd fight for you. His hand dropped. Dad, please, let's talk about this. We're done talking. I walked out with Jack, put him in my truck, cranked the heat up full blast, and wrapped him in the emergency blanket I keep behind the seat. He still hadn't said a word since I'd picked him up. You okay, buddy? He nodded, but he was crying now. Silent tears rolling down his cheeks. Are Mom and Dad gonna be mad? Don't you worry about that. Are you mad? Not at you. Never at you. We sat there for a minute, engine running, heat finally starting to work on his frozen hands and feet. I could see David standing in the doorway of his house, Rachel beside him, both of them watching us. My phone rang, David calling. I didn't answer. It rang again, then again. Finally, a text, Dad. Bring him back. We can work this out. I texted back. No. Another text. This is kidnapping. I texted. Call the cops then. Explain why he was outside. The text stopped. I drove Jack to my house, fed him Linda's stuffing and some soup I had in the freezer, ran him a warm bath, found some of David's old clothes in the attic that sort of fit. The whole time he was quiet, scared I think, but also relieved, like he finally didn't have to be perfect. That night, after I'd put him to bed in David's old room, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list, everything I could remember, every time something had seemed off, every comment Rachel had made about Jack being difficult or manipulative, every time David had canceled a visit at the last minute, every bruise Jack couldn't explain, every time that boy had seemed scared to go home. How had I missed it? How had I let it get this bad? Because I'd been a coward. That's the truth. I'd been so afraid of losing access to Jack that I'd ignored what was right in front of me. I'd made excuses, told myself it wasn't my business, told myself David knew what he was doing. The next morning, Black Friday, I called a lawyer, not some random guy from the phone book, a friend from way back who'd handled custody cases. Walt, you sure about this? Once you start this process, I'm sure it's gonna get ugly. It already is ugly. And he was right. It got ugly fast. David showed up at my house that afternoon with 2 cops, claimed I'd kidnapped Jack. But Jack was smart. Even at 7, he was smart. He told the officers about being left outside, showed them his hands, which were still raw and peeling, told them about other times, other punishments. The officers took notes, took pictures. One of them, an older guy who looked about my age, pulled me aside. Your grandson's lucky to have you. No, I said. I should have done this sooner. CPS got involved. The next week, there was an investigation, interviews. Rachel tried to spin it, said Jack was a pathological liar, that he'd made it all up for attention. But there were too many details. Too many little things that added up. Her own sister ended up talking to the investigators. Admitted she'd seen things that worried her but hadn't wanted to cause family drama. Rachel's parents stayed quiet. Lawyered up, acted like they'd never seen anything wrong. But the most painful part was David. My son, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after Linda died. He chose Rachel. He stood by her. He said I was overreacting, that I was trying to steal his son, that I'd always been too soft, and now I was trying to undermine their parenting. He said I was the problem. We went to court in January, bitter cold again, like the universe was reminding me how this all started. I wore my only suit, the one I bought for Linda's funeral and only wore to weddings and funerals since. David showed up in a $1,000 suit with a lawyer who probably cost more than I made in a month back when I was working. But Jack testified. They did it over video, with a child advocate, so he didn't have to see his parents. And that brave little boy told the truth. All of it. Not just the Thanksgiving incident, but the other times. The hours locked in his room. The meals withheld. The casual cruelty disguised as discipline. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" the advocate asked him. "Because Mom said Papa Walt wouldn't love me anymore if he knew I was bad." I had to leave the courtroom when he said that, went to the bathroom and threw up, then sat on the floor and cried like I hadn't cried since Linda's funeral. They gave me temporary custody that day. David and Rachel got supervised visitation. The judge ordered parenting classes, therapy, a whole program they'd have to complete to get Jack back. They never completed it. They fought for a few months, showed up to some visits, made a show of being reformed. But when the judge wouldn't immediately give them Jack back, when it became clear this was going to be a long process, they just stopped. David sent me an email in March. Said I'd destroyed his family. Said I'd chosen Jack over him. Said he was done with both of us. I wanted to write back. Wanted to explain that he'd chosen wrong, that it wasn't too late, that he could still be the father Jack needed. But what was the point? He'd made his choice back in November, when he sat at that warm table while his son froze outside. So now it's just me and Jack. I'm 68 years old, starting over as a parent. Some days I feel every one of those years. When Jack has nightmares, when he asks why his parents don't want to see him anymore, when he gets that look on his face like he's waiting for me to abandon him too. But we're making it work. I signed him up for Little League. He's in therapy, proper therapy. Not whatever twisted thing Rachel called discipline. He laughs now. Real laughs. Not the careful kind he used to do. Last week he called me Dad by accident. Then he got this panicked look on his face. "It's okay," I told him. "You can call me whatever feels right. Is Papa Walt okay? Papa Walt is perfect." But that's not the end of the story. I wish it was. I wish I could tell you we rode off into the sunset. Grandfather and grandson, healing together. 2 weeks ago, Thanksgiving again, we were having our own dinner, just the two of us. I made Linda's stuffing. Jack helped with the cranberry sauce. It was quiet but good. The kind of good you appreciate after you've been through hell. Then the doorbell rang. It was David. He stood there on my porch, looking older than his 40 years. Thinner, his expensive clothes replaced with jeans and a sweatshirt. No Rachel with him. "Dad, David, can I come in?" I wanted to say no. God, I wanted to slam that door in his face like he'd slammed his heart shut to his own son. But Jack was watching from the dining room, and I couldn't be that cruel in front of him. "Jack's here," I said. "You know you're not supposed to." "I'm not here to see Jack. I'm here to see you." We stood on the porch. Not inside. I wouldn't let him inside, but on the porch where Jack couldn't hear. "Rachel left me," he said. I said nothing. She said I was weak. Said I chose you over her. "You chose wrong way before that." He nodded, looked down. "I know. Do you really, Ithering?" He started to cry. My son, who I hadn't seen cry since his mother's funeral, stood on my porch and sobbed. "I don't know how it got so bad. I don't know how I let it happen." "Yes, you do." He looked up at me, surprised by the hardness in my voice. "You know exactly how," I continued. "You chose the easy path every time. You chose keeping Rachel happy over keeping Jack safe. You chose your comfort over your son's well-being. You chose to look away when looking was hard. I'm sorry. I don't care." And I meant it. His sorry meant nothing to me anymore. "I want to make it right," he said. "You can't, Dad, please. You left him outside in the cold, David. And not just that Thanksgiving. You've been leaving him in the cold his whole life. Every time you didn't stand up for him. Every time you let Rachel's cruelty slide. Every time you chose her over him. I was trying to keep my family together. By sacrificing your son? He had no answer for that. What do you want? I asked. Why are you here? I want to see him. No, he's my son. Not anymore. You gave that up. The court gave that up for you. I could fight for him. I could go back to court. With what? You have no job, no wife, no home. From what I'm hearing, you have nothing to offer him except more trauma. He stood there, deflated. This man who was once my little boy, who I taught to ride a bike and throw a baseball and be a good man. This stranger wearing my son's face. I failed him, he finally said. Yes, I failed you. Yes. Is there any way back? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about being a parent. You never stop loving your kids. Even when they break your heart. Even when they become people you don't recognize. That love just sits there, hurting, like a bruise that won't heal. I don't know, I said. Honestly, maybe someday, but not now. Not for a long time, and not unless you do the work. Real work. Therapy. Parenting classes. Prove you've changed. Prove you understand what you did. And even then, it's Jack's choice, not mine. David nodded, wiped his face. Can you tell him I'm sorry? No, that's your job when you've earned the right to say it. He left after that. No fight, no drama. Just got in his car and drove away. Jack asked me who was at the door. I told him it was someone selling something. He accepted it and went back to his dinner. But later, when I was tucking him in, he said, "That was Dad, wasn't it? Kids know more than we think they do." Yeah, buddy, it was. Is he better now? I don't know. Maybe he's trying to be... Do I have to see him? Not until you're ready, and only if you want to. What if I'm never ready? Then you're never ready, and that's okay. He thought about that for a while. Then Papa Walt. Yeah? Thanks for getting me warm that day. Always, buddy. Always. But even that's not really the end, because 3 days ago I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Rachel's handwriting. It was addressed to Jack, not me. Inside it said, "Hope Grandpa is taking better care of you than he took care of your dad." I sat at my kitchen table looking at that card, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger, not hurt, just empty. Like looking at a photo of someone you used to know, but can't quite remember why they mattered. I threw it away. Didn't tell Jack about it. Some messages don't deserve to be delivered. But it made me think about David's question. Is there any way back? I don't know. I raised him right, I think. Tried to, anyway. Taught him about loyalty and family and standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. But somewhere along the way he forgot, or chose to forget, or had it trained out of him by someone who thought love was weakness and kindness was foolish. Can you come back from that? Can you remember who you were supposed to be? I sit here at 2 a.m., in this quiet house, with my grandson sleeping safe upstairs, and I honestly don't know. Part of me hopes David figures it out, that he does the work, that maybe years from now he can be something to Jack, even if it's just a birthday card that doesn't hurt to read. But part of me knows better, knows that some bridges once burned leave gaps too wide to cross again. Some cold once felt never really leaves your bones. Jack still has nightmares sometimes, still flinches when voices get raised, still asks permission for things like getting a glass of water or using the bathroom. We're working on it. His therapist says he's making progress, but there are scars there that might never fully fade, and I carry my own scars. The guilt of not acting sooner, the grief of losing my son, not to death, but to something maybe worse, the weight of raising another child when I should be retired, fishing, maybe traveling to see those places Linda always wanted to visit. But then Jack laughs at something on TV, or he helps me fix something in the garage, or he falls asleep on the couch and I carry him to bed, and I remember this is what matters, not what I lost, not what should have been, just this boy who needs me, who trusts me, who's learning what real love looks like. It cost me everything. My son, my retirement, my peace. It was worth it. Every single frozen moment was worth it to get him warm. So that's my story. That's what happened last Thanksgiving and what's still happening now. I don't know if it helps to tell it. Don't know if anyone listening has been through something similar. But if you have, if you're sitting there wondering whether to act, whether to intervene, whether to risk everything to save someone who can't save themselves, do it. Even if it costs you everything. Even if they hate you for it. Even if you end up old and tired and starting over when you should be slowing down. Do it. Because that cold doesn't go away on its own. Someone has to bring the warmth. Someone has to be brave enough to kick down the door, especially if, the people eating turkey at the table pretend not to notice who's freezing outside. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.